Hey everyone. So I had someone in my Facebook community recently say, I wish I had a list of everything that sells in vintage booths so I'll know exactly what to buy. And I will tell you, that's exactly why I started Vintage Booth Pro, the website, this YouTube channel, and my Facebook community. I asked so many questions when I first started. I talked to other vendors. I begged my store owner to say, tell me the number one selling booth in the whole store, and so I can learn from them. I wasn't able to get that information, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it, and that's another thing that I've learned as well. But so today, I want to talk to you about how to learn exactly what is going to sell in your part of the world and some of the common things that we do typically see selling. If we haven't met yet, I'm Crystal. I'm the founder of Vintage Booth Pro. You are more than welcome to join our community over on Facebook. It is called the Vintage Booth Pro Community. We have over 27,000 people, vendors, and people. And, we're just learning. I post daily sales updates just so it can be an educational group. And I have recently gotten some feedback, which I thought was interesting, that people find it, think that we're gloating or think that we're bragging about what we're selling. And that's not the case at all because my sales can be absolutely terrible one day. And then the next day, they're great. So that's the whole reason I do that. And it's just so new people like I was 4 years ago can learn what's selling. Okay, so this is part three in a series. The first one was all about, things you don't know before you start a vintage booth business and what you might learn, like I've learned over the past 4 years. Second video was about how to find the best antique mall in your area and then the best location within your antique mall. And now this video is going to be about what should I actually sell here? Okay, so if you're in my group, you might learn, that word signs or Ray Dunn mugs are selling for somebody. And I say this specifically because a YouTuber that I love is always picking those up and they sell like hotcakes. But in my part of the world, in Georgia, which is where I am, they will sit for years. So it's really important to take that sales data with a grain of salt and investigate in your area a little bit more, so just so you have a better understanding. So, as if you're a new vintage booth owner, you found the perfect location. You're thrilled to get started. Now the question is, what do you put in your booth? So hopefully I can help you with that question today. So you may have already done this. You may have already gone through all the antique malls in your area, shopped and seen, what kind of things are selling, what kind of people are doing that. But now it's important to narrow it down to your antique mall within antique malls within your let's say a 5 mile radius. So pay attention to the booths that look shopped or picked over, like a lot of people are buying inventory from them. Look at price tags, look and see what feels normal in your area. And if you go multiple times, you could see if stuff's been sitting for a while. If you see a lot of empty shelves or holes within displays, you'll know that probably something's been picked from there. And so that type of display, that type of theme or whatever is selling there is going to be popular in your area. This is a fun one, and I do it every time I go in. Observe who is shopping. And you're not judging people, you're just doing marketing research. Your buyers shape your inventory, the things that you need to be looking for. The people that are naturally drawn to the store are your shoppers. I've noticed a lot of moms during the day will bring their kids to look around. So I tend to bring some toys in and, put it in those lower shelves that we have no idea what to do with because those kids are going to be looking and begging mom for stuff. I see a lot of groups of ladies that, maybe they'll lunch together and then go shopping. I see moms and daughters that want to spend time together and they enjoy shopping. Those are the best types of shoppers because they will encourage each other to buy stuff. So if you see someone saying, oh, this is cute, you should get it. And those are my favorite shoppers. You do see people looking for collectibles, of course, and your antique mall owner will probably know those guys because they come in on a weekly basis. And once you get started, with your booth and in like the first 90 days, you'll see what's selling and you'll have that sales data to know in January, these are the types of things that sell. In August, this is what people are looking for. And that's why it's really important to keep inventory and keep notes of things, of anything that you see that is working. And it's also important to look at the different malls in your area and see if they have a theme overall. I was shopping at kind of a new one in my area, in my town, and I noticed it's heavy on furniture, big pieces, unique pieces, and it was not cheap. So they were doing a great job of having a consistent theme overall for the store. And, it's a place where people know if they're looking for a specific piece of furniture, they can come and browse that. Always peek at price tags. I do this every time I'm in the store. If there's something I like or if there's something I have the same thing of, I'll look at their price and just, know if I'm in the right range of pricing. Pricing items is is a very difficult thing to learn, and you always have to continue learning. So a good thing to notice is that if you notice something has a higher price than maybe you would have paid for it, but then the next time you're in it's sold, that's a great thing to recognize. Categories that you see are constantly marked down. So they've been sitting, the seller is ready to get rid of them. That might be a category to avoid. So the buyers really drive the price and the categories of what you see in booths. One of the best pieces of advice is to really get to know other vendors in your mall, as well as the front desk staff and the store owners. If you have the opportunity to work at the front desk, I think that's huge. Absolutely take the opportunity if you can. Of course, it takes time, and a lot of us with full time jobs aren't able to do so. But if they have a weekend spot available, that's a great time to look at what's going out the door and pick up on that sales data. If not, talk to the front desk. They are some of the most friendly people I've ever met. I absolutely love my front desk staff. I see a lot of people hanging out at the front desk. They probably don't love that as much, but if you can volunteer, do so in any way, shape, or form. And that is the absolute number one best way to learn what's selling in that mall is to work the front desk. Another really good one, and my mall does a great job of this. What are people looking for, but they can't find? And so we have a book at the front desk that people write down things like they're looking for a secretary desk, they're looking for, whatever. Um, and a lot of times our store owners will share it on our Facebook page that's just for dealers. So because they want to make the sale, they want to make the shoppers happy and be able to find the things that they like and come back to the store. So that's important data to know as well. And if you have that Facebook community or some kind of email group with other vendors, or if you're just friends with the other vendors, which is a great thing to do, just because they are also awesome people, ask them what tends to sit too long. What kinds of things are people buying from your booth? And you can really tell like that just by walking around as well. If you see a lot of things marked down, it's been there too long. Let's avoid looking for that. Okay, so some categories are going to sell everywhere. No matter where you are, they're going to sell fast. And I'm going to get into those in just a minute. But use the data that you find in our group to kind of test and see if it works. So if you see something in our group, like say I sold an oil painting, always be on the lookout for vintage paintings, vintage artwork. And, some of them are a hit and some of them are a miss. But it's important to test and always be on the lookout for what's working. So the goal isn't to chase trends or copy people that live 5 states over. The goal is to stock items that your buyers already know how to say yes to. So the items they already like and they can find it in their booth. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so it's also a mindset shift. So when you first get started, you might think you want to stock your booth with everything you like. And that's okay to start with. And hey, you might have the exact taste of your local market, but then you may not. So through the course of learning, you're going to learn to source for your booth what your buyers are already proving that they want. And that shift, moving from your personal taste to market data, is what separates profitable booths from stagnant ones or people that quit after a few months. Okay, so let's get into what actually sells. So we'll tell you a funny story really quickly. When I first started this business, my dad was asking questions like, what sells for you? Is it the oldest thing? Is it the most antique thing that is in your booth? And I kind of laughed. I was like, absolutely not. Like, number one, it's really hard to find actual antique things to sell. Like items that are 100 years old, maybe I found one or two things in the course of the 4 years I've been doing this. Vintage items, of course, those are easier to find, but a lot of the trending shoppers that we're seeing in antique stores today are looking for unique pieces, something that fits what they're looking for, and even trending items. And, it doesn't have to be new, mass produced. And I think that's where we get it wrong. Like, that's what we think of when we think trending. It's whatever they like, whatever unique thing that they've seen and something they've always wanted, something that hits at nostalgia for them. So that was the funny thing. I said, it's not the oldest thing, it's the trendiest thing. And he kind of, he looked confused because when I was a kid, antique stores were different and they were boring and I hated them. But now when I go into the store with my kids, there's shops that or booths that have baseball cards, football cards. And my son, that's his interest. So he loves it. There are booths that have vintage band shirts and just cool vintage t-shirts. And my daughter loves that. So, it's not dusty stores that smell like old people anymore like it was when I was a kid and I was forced to go. It's based on your hobbies and your interests. And that's why more and more people are shopping the wide variety of things that they can find at local antique stores. So you have to play to that, to those people that want something unique that they can't find at Home Goods or Target. So a lot of new vendors and a lot of people that don't have booths, they think that, something's super old. It feels collectible, feels important, like someone who will definitely like this. That's the thing that will sit and sit and sit. Okay, so things that do not sell, mass produced collectibles. And I'm talking about precious moments. Beanie Babies, plates like Norman Rockwell, Thomas Kincaid decor, Lennox seasonal figurines. So in the 80s and 90s, these were mass produced and marked as limited editions, marked as collectible. And I remember that. I remember buying a special gift for someone, and it was super cool that they had that. But millions were produced, and most were saved in boxes. And today, they will show up at every estate sale across America. An oversupply kills resale value. Now, exceptions do exist, so hear me out on that. Like, some Beanie Babies will sell. Some Norman Rockwell plates will sell. But for the most part, for most booth owners, they become collectibles for your booth that just sit there and sit there. The next category that does not sell is old books because they're not automatically valuable, like the large encyclopedia says, or the Reader's Digest books. So there is a rare book market, but it's very specific. First editions, signed copies, and historically significant titles as well. Banned books are a great thing to put in your vintage booth. So age alone does not equal demand. I like finding old books with cool hardcovers to use for decor. And I think a lot of people buy that for that reason. The booth beside me has so many books, but they're priced from $1 to $3. So not highly valuable, but will make their buyers happy. So if that's what they want to source, that's totally fine. And I think that's great for them. Okay. Full China sets will sit and sit. And here's the reason why. Modern buyers have moved on from these beautiful traditional China sets. And that's because younger shoppers aren't hosting formal dinners. They, like me, do not want to hand wash 12-piece place settings. And a lot of people prefer to mix and match their entertainment settings. So it's a really difficult thing. And I will tell you, when you first start as a vintage booth seller, at least 3 of your friends will contact you and say, oh, I have this set of dishes that'll be perfect for your booth. You want to buy it from me? And I had friends that contact me with that, with the full China sets, with the punch bowls with the little glass cups that go with it. We're just in a different world right now. Okay, so those are ideas of things that just don't sell, that you might think sell, but they just don't sell. So here are the things that actually do sell. Vintage holiday decor. And this one hits in the nostalgia for literally almost every person in America, no matter what you celebrate. Okay, so vintage Christmas, be on the lookout for shiny bright ornaments. I've even sold a shiny bright empty box because that's all I've been able to find. And shockingly, that sold ceramic Christmas trees. And those are super popular. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of reproductions right now. So you really have to kind of do your research and learn if it is actual vintage or if it's a newer one. Blow molds. These are so great. Sell quickly. They are, not only Christmas, I've sold Easter blow molds and Halloween as well. Very hard to find. Vintage angel tree toppers, aluminum tinsel trees. So let me know if you've ever found one because I'm going to be super jealous. So it works because, like I said, it hits in the nostalgia. It's seasonal urgency. And it's heavy in use in what is a trending keyword right now, which is modern vintage inspired decor. You see it at Target, you see it at Kohl's, you see it at Hobby Lobby. All these retailers are doing vintage inspired retro pieces because it's very popular right now. But to find the actual vintage piece will sell much faster and at a much higher price. Okay, Holt Howard. I don't know if you have never heard of Holt Howard, do a little bit of research. I hadn't either when I first started, and I found some pieces one time in a thrift store for a couple of dollars, and there were two vintage cats, and I always buy cats, so I bought them. Looked it up online. I was shocked at how much they resold for. So I'm going to try to say this word, anthropom anthropomorphic. So it looks like it's a lot like an animal that looks real. Kitchen, like I think it was a salt and pepper shaker. So there's a pixie ware, there's kittens, there's salt and pepper shakers. Yeah, check it out online. It's really cool stuff. Vintage barware and cocktail culture. So finding vintage retro pieces for your bar is really is popular right now, and it will be popular for a while. So MCM pieces, I just sold a set of Starburst martini glasses, which is perfect as we're going into New Year's and the holidays. So cocktail glasses, decanters, ice buckets, and cocktail shaker sets. Vintage pieces with that MCM look will sell really quickly. Okay, Pyrex. Obviously, this is a huge one, but not every piece of Pyrex. You can still go to Walmart and buy Pyrex. That's not what we're looking for. I'm going to pop up a video of a vendor from my store who specializes in the coolest vintage Pyrex, and they've got it priced right because it's good stuff. So you want to be on the lookout for rare patterns, unique colors, promotional pieces. There are Pyrex collectors that will come from states away to buy your pieces. And the great thing is a lot of thrift stores don't know what the difference is. So a lot of times you can get it for fairly cheap. Look at estate sales. They will make a bundle deal with you to sell them for cheaper. Just always be on the lookout for Pyrex. Even if it's something that you don't specialize in, you can make a really good deal with your local Pyrex dealer, I'm sure. Okay, vintage clothing. So vintage clothing is really broad, but it's a category that will sell well, especially band and concert tees from the early 70s, 80s. Always be on the lookout for, I don't know if it has to be single stitch, but just that, like at some point we started doing double stitch, but back then it was single stitch, and that gives you an immediate clue that it's vintage, but I'm not the expert, so you have to do a little bit more research there. Vintage denim, Levi's. Oh, there's so much cool stuff with Levi's with the different colored tags. And if it's upside down, and the same thing with Lee and Wrangler, even. Western wear, a lot of cool vintage Western wear pieces, and vintage slips and nightgowns. So even Victoria's Secret has vintage pieces at this point. And so, yeah, that's a fun thing to always be on the lookout for. A lot of these small items add up. So just keep in the back of your mind brass candlesticks. I can find a brass candlestick, put it in my booth, and less than a week later, it's gone. Ornate or unusual picture frames. I can't tell you how many people have stopped me in the store asking for a booth with picture frames. I'm like, they probably all do because everyone's looking for picture frames because it's been too long. We've only had pictures on our phones. We want to print them out now and get them in our home. So even giving them as gifts, which is what I did for my parents. Vintage baskets, especially in the summer, picnic baskets. Is in the holidays, you want to have cool vintage baskets for display purposes. And even in the January, February, the cozy months, something to display blankets and things. Ceramic and pottery planters, absolutely And I've been purchasing a lot of those because that's what people are going to be looking for once we get into the winter months and people are ready to start thinking about spring and gardening. And so those ceramic pieces that they can use as pottery will be huge. Decorative ashtrays. Not that you even smoke anymore, but they're just cool trinket dishes. But there were a lot of really cool ashtrays back in the day. I have one in my booth right now that's Route 66. It's not that collectible, but it's kind of a cool piece. So those small little things that people can use around their home and vintage, unique pieces, always be on the lookout. Okay, so the 3-question task every vintage seller should be asking when they are sourcing. Number 1, who is buying this and are they still shopping? Meaning, is the buyer base growing, shrinking, or stable? Are new collectors entering the market or is the demand aging out? So items with multi-generational appeal tend to perform best. But what are those pieces that people are constantly searching for? And ask yourself, is the thing that you're looking at one of those pieces? Number 2, how many of these exist? Scarcity matters. Was it mass produced? Was it marked as collectible? Because it probably is not. So scarcity plus demand equals sales. That's the one that I mentioned Murano. And that's because they're only made on the island. I think it's an island of Murano. And that's the only place you can get it. So that's a scarcity thing. And that is why it is so highly collectible and people are always on the lookout. The last question you should ask is, can I sell this for at least X my cost? So that 4X margin allows for rent, booth rent, any fees like commissions, your time spent sourcing, including mileage, cleaning and pricing it. And finally, it gives you a little markdown flexibility just in case it's not a piece that sells quickly. So if it's priced too high, you might want to reconsider that collectible item. So I am going to have all of this information available in a blog post and I will link it down below. And if you like videos like this, I'll link the first 2 videos that were about getting started in a vintage booth world. And I hope this helps. Let me know in the comments below if it helps, and let me know if there are any collectible items right now that you're on the lookout for. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.